In the vast expanse of the Arabian Desert, where the golden dunes seemed to stretch endlessly, a story of unwavering honor unfolded, a story that would embed itself into the very sands of time. This was the land of Sheikh Rami, a man of wisdom and virtue, whose leadership was spoken of in whispers of both admiration and reverence. His tribe, a proud and united people, found strength in his fairness, and his word was as unyielding as the fiery sun above the desert. Among them was Omar, a young tribesman with fire in his heart, eager to carve his name into the annals of greatness, but blinded by impatience and a thirst for glory. One evening, when the skies were ignited with hues of crimson and gold, the camp bustled with the easing of another harsh desert day. The sound of camels resting and the faint echo of laughter across the sands created an air of calm. But then came the sound of faltering footsteps, the hesitant, uneven steps of a weary man. A stranger emerged from the horizon, half collapsed against the might of the desert. His clothes were in tatters, his face hollowed by the merciless sun, but his eyes burned with desperation and resolve. He stumbled toward Sheikh Rami's camp, his voice hoarse and broken. "Save me, please," the stranger gasped, collapsing to his knees. "I have been betrayed. My own blood, my own kin, they left me for dead." Sheikh Rami stepped forward, his commanding presence quieting the murmurs among his people. He extended his hand to the stranger and spoke with the steady authority of a man who understood the gravity of his own words. "Here there is no betrayal," he said. "No guest is turned away beneath the roof of our tents, and no man is abandoned in the wilderness." The weary man, whose name was Zaid, was carried into the camp. Food was brought to his frail body, water poured over his parched lips, and the tribe worked throughout the night to restore his strength. The brush with death had marked him, but gratitude flickered in his gaze as he lay beneath the protection of the Bedouins. But not all within the tribe shared Sheikh Rami's sentiments. Omar, hot-blooded and ever suspicious, watched Zaid closely. To him, this was no stranger in need. This was a risk. The desert had its way of bringing predators in the guise of the helpless, and Omar could not suppress his doubt.
Why should we trust him? We know nothing of this man except the stories he spins. What if he brings danger to our doorstep?
A man's worth, Omar, is not measured by your impatience. It is measured by how he chooses to act when he has the chance to betray trust, and how we choose to act when given the chance to defend it.
Omar said no more that night, but his doubts lingered like the shifting winds. As the days passed, Zaid grew stronger, and the full story of his plight emerged. He was fleeing from his own people, who accused him of treason, a crime he insisted he had not committed. He spoke of false accusations fueled by greed and envy among his kin. Though the tribe listened, Omar remained skeptical. Justice, in his eyes, should not be weighed so heavily against the risks of sheltering the accused. And then came the night when the desert winds carried the sound of hoofbeats. Dozens of them, a cohort of armed riders, appeared on the horizon, their figures silhouetted against the pale moonlight as they drew closer with each passing moment. The air grew charged with tension, and the tribe gathered to meet the threat. The riders dismounted, their leader stepping forward to address Sheikh Rami. His voice was cold and demanding. "We seek the fugitive Zaid. He is guilty of treason against our house. Return him to us, and you will avoid bloodshed. Return him to us, and you will avoid bloodshed." A wave of uneasy murmurs swept through the tribe as Omar stepped to Sheikh Rami's side. Here at last was the test, the moment to decide. Omar's voice was hurried, urgent. "We must send him with them," he argued. "What is one man's life worth against the safety of our tribe? Why risk the wrath of those who clearly seek vengeance?" But Sheikh Rami was unmoved. His gaze was steady as he looked toward the riders, the eyes of a man who had made his choice long before this night came.
You seek Zaid, but he is not yours to take. He came to us in need, and we swore to protect him. I will not betray the oath of hospitality for the sake of convenience. Honor is not a burden we shed when it becomes heavy.
Zaid, humbled beyond words by the Sheikh's defiance, knelt before him.
Please, Sheikh, I cannot repay what you have done for me, but let me go. I cannot allow innocent blood to be spilled in my name.
You are under my protection. That is not a duty I relinquish for fear of consequences.
The tribe stood at Sheikh Rami's side, ready to defend their leader's decision, even if it meant meeting the riders in combat. The scimitars gleamed under the moonlight as tension rippled through the air. But before a single blade could be drawn, the opposing riders hesitated. Whispers passed among them, words carried not from logic, but from legend. "It is Sheikh Rami," one murmured, "the man whose honor is unshakable." Another shook his head slowly. No man of such integrity would protect the guilty. The shame of their own actions, of pursuing vengeance rather than truth, began to weigh heavily upon the riders. One by one, their gazes fell to the ground, and their leader at last turned to Sheikh Rami with a rueful nod. "Then let it be so," the man said. "Your honor has spared his life today." With that, they mounted their horses and disappeared into the shadowed dunes, leaving the tribe in silence, and Zaid with tears streaming silently down his face. It was Zaid, no longer the broken man who had once stumbled into the camp, but a successful merchant whose name was known in cities far and wide. He had returned, not in need, but in gratitude. Zaid knelt once more before Sheikh Rami, surrounded by his tribespeople. "I owe my life to your honor," he said. "Allow me to bring prosperity to your tribe as you once gave me mine." And prosperity he brought, in the form of trade, alliances, and bounty. In his later years, as the desert whispered its stories to those willing to listen, Sheikh Rami's legacy endured. Amidst the glowing sands of time, the world remembers a lesson as ancient as the dunes. The strength to keep one's word transcends fear, doubt, and even enemies. Sheikh Rami's lesson lives on, a promise of integrity, a reminder that legacies aren't written by weapons, but by the indelible ink of trust. Years passed, and the story became legend. But legends often shift, change, and grow forgotten with time.